people coming in, and it just, I mean, before we even came together, I was going, that's the way we became the Brady Bunch, or it's Hollywood Squares. Was someone there when we started talking about Paul Lynde? Hey, Mark. Sorry, you came right in as I was singing.
Well,
Or why
We
be
have,
sorry? That could be the best time, right?
there we go. He's like, is this the right show?
yeah, I was checking
Is my
checking the
Clubhouse
link
going?
and
Is this, whatever, 80s or 70s? That's probably 70s. We have Mark and Mark, but Mark Joseph goes also by Gramps Jeffries, if you're looking him up on LinkedIn. Since last we spoke, people in August through December of 2022 have arrived. The picnic table's a little bit bigger today. I'm so glad. So I'm just going to pass the picnic basket to Alipio. He was the first one here, and I don't want him to be too hungry. So, Alipio, since last we spoke, which has been pretty recent for you and I, because you came on twice on purpose. I didn't drag you. So what's been going on in your world?
For those of you who don't know me, real quick, 29 years as a computer programmer, 8.5 years in corporate America. I've worked for Paramount Pictures, Hughes Aerospace, Parsons Engineering, Kaiser Permanente, and then I jumped into PC development, moved to Seattle, did a project for Boeing Aerospace and ADT Security, got written up as a case study in innovation with Microsoft. Then I had to leave for family reasons, came back to Southern California, and I got into web development, social media marketing, and then burned out, spent 5 years as a personal trainer, of course, helping out fellow stressed out business executives and professionals. And then in 2019, I got fed up with my primary care physician in terms of my type 2 diabetes. And it pissed me off enough, I did my own research, hooked up with an endocrinologist, assistant clinical professor at the School of Medicine at USC, and I developed a fasting and fitness protocol. I reversed my type 2 diabetes and became medication-free in 4 months and 6 days. Since then, I began an alpha test group, refining my protocol for the general population. In January of 2021, I started my beta test program 5 weeks ago, specifically to cater to helping other people reverse type 2 diabetes. And I'm about to submit an application for a CDC research grant by March 14th of next month. So that's me.
That's what's happening. I mean, just weeks from now, you're submitting. So you scienced the heck out of it and teched the heck out of it, and took your burnout and your corporate and everything else and just went whoosh, and you've been pretty unstoppable.
Well, as tech guys, once we bite into something, we can't let go. And I made the decision when I reversed my type 2 diabetes in December 2019. I had to make a decision. I could either go back into computer consulting full time or make this my legacy project. So I decided to do this. So I've been doing 3 years of full-time research into this topic. So pretty much I'm hoping to apply for Johns Hopkins program for a master's or PhD next year. So, I'm not going to sit around and wait to retire. I'll never retire.
I already love you.
If anybody has like any devices that are running low on battery, just plug it into Alipio, because he is. Joe, so nice to see you again. I mean, I think I felt a connection to you when you and Kathy were both making comments in a post. I mean, this is just alphabet letters with spaces in between, but you can feel like you can get to know a person by what they write or the way they put their voice into something. And yay, you came this direction. How's Fotavia?
Otavia. Well, that's kind of the European enunciation, I think. Everybody, Fotavia, we call it here.
Fotavia. Okay.
It's more elegant. It's more European. And we're connected because I think you said it's sleeting there in Oregon. Well, here in Milwaukee, it's sleeting. We've got the same thing, only different. Straight across the country, I think there must be a line coming right across. I know if we go a little bit north to Minneapolis, they're supposed to get 22 inches of wonderful white powder, and I'm happy not to be there. So, wow. Thank you for having me. First of all, again, I'm glad we connected, and I love following you and seeing all the great people that you bring on. It's hard to follow Alipio's act there. That was, I mean, not act, real life stuff. That's brilliant. I love it.
The mic.
I guess I do some similar things. I guess I've recreated. My background is advertising, marketing, branding. So I've been doing that. I'm 21 now, so I've been doing that about 30 some years, I guess. And about like 2014, I met the founder of Fotavia, and he used to have an art gallery here in Milwaukee. He had he focused on images from the Life Picture Collection. So he was one of a handful of galleries around the world that had rights to sell these to folks. So he was selling prints of Frank Lloyd Wright for $5,000, small ones, and then prints of the Beatles on the cover of Life magazine, 30 by 40, that were maybe $40,000 prints. So kind of a range of stuff. Anyway, so Fotavia, essentially, we make movies. Our signature flagship programming is called A Moment in Time, and it focuses on images from the Life Picture Collection. So we got an amazing licensing agreement with them. And we started building movies. And right now we have, we call them V-clips. They're only 2-minute long little pieces. And we've got over 260 of them done. And we actually have over 300 in total content. We have some new things that we've been working on the last year or so. So we started in 2017, we pilot tested at Aurora St. Luke's here in Milwaukee, did 150 surveys and got 86% of the people to say that this was very good. It was relaxing. It was entertaining and way, way better than the crap on TV. Can I say that? Crap on TV? I think so.
There's plenty of it.
It was great. And that was what we believed we were the solution for the pollution or the visual pollution out there. And we actually started in hospitality. So we started at the Crown Plaza here in Milwaukee that had been renovated. And we just thought it's a 4-5-star hotel, whatever, many star hotel. And they, when you go to a place to stay, you're looking for an experience. And in hospitality, they're trying to deliver that experience. Well, we thought you couldn't put on CNN back then. Something bad was going to show up on the screen, no doubt. You can't watch the news. We all know that. ESPN, not everybody's into sports. The Food Channel, I love it, but anyway. So we thought that we would have content that would be super engaging, educational, and not offend anybody, really. I mean, it was G-rated stuff, and there is no G rating, right? I think even kids' cartoons are rated PG now. So we thought we had something that was great, but we also knew that it could work in some other channels, and senior living, memory care, Alzheimer's. We knew that was going to be big. So kind of pre-pandemic, we pivoted a little bit and started focusing in those areas, and we've had some good success in that, and just continue to grow. So we're expanding now. We're looking into the VA, and we can help. We believe in battling PTSD and whatnot, and it's good programming that can be on, anytime for anybody. We designed it if you're 5 or 105. I believe that we've created something that's good. And so I think last year when I met with you, we talked a little bit about we did a program through the NSF, the National Science Foundation. It was a Milwaukee I-Core program, and we tested a couple of hypotheses. And one was, is engagement important in healthcare, senior living in those environments? And yes, it worked. But we also tested another one, is engagement important in education? And the 26 interviews that we did was leaning towards, yes, it's very important, it's critical. So I thought we could do it all along, but we then decided to create a Fotavia ED department, education. So Fotavia Ed was born, and we're chasing some financial, some grants to help. I don't want to really recreate our content, but some of the secondary work that we're doing, we're going to need to change some of the questions and some of the some other things. We created then Fotrivia last year, which is kind of a supplement, a more engagement tool. It kind of makes Fotavia kind of like bingo on steroids in a senior environment. The residents at all cognitive levels love it. And we have people fighting over microphones to answer questions and tell stories. I love it. I love it. We have one scheduled this week. We've done about, 15 over the past year. And just what I learn about everybody, and it's just brilliant. It helps the activity directors because they don't have to come up with a plan. We just show content and hit the pause button, and conversations start. We show 8 V-clips in a session, supposed to last an hour. We've been averaging an hour and a half. They kick us out after an hour and a half because they got to go to some other activity, but it's brilliant. So I love seeing the smiles, the engagement, the intergenerational conversations. It's amazing. So hospitality and healthcare, senior living, they're kind of parallel paths. So they're trying to create experiences. So we're happy to be. I can't get the news out fast enough, and I've taken enough time. That's really the 10,000 foot overview. So working with some new folks around here in hospice, folks at Amedisys, they're introducing us to the world. We're very thankful for that. Some other neat things going on with Saltbox TV. They're getting into direct TV and whatnot. So we're penetrating some other different markets, and we're getting the news out. So thank you so much for having me. I'll be out.
Splendid. Healthcare and hospitality. So sitting in a waiting room, waiting for a mammogram, a root canal, whatever. And that's the last thing you want to think about right now. Because then, what do? Take your blood pressure and start telling you a bunch of medicalese and all this. And to just stop for a moment. And I can imagine a much younger person on my left and a person to my right who was born a couple decades before me, and the three of us being able to converse and nobody having to think about, what they're going into the dentist for next or something, but just be in that moment, and a little history lesson, a little would you rather kind of conversation starting. So that I'm just throwing that out as another waiting rooms. Because most people don't like to be in waiting rooms either. Oh, good. Yeah.
That's essentially what we were designed for. Any place where anybody would wait. That was one of our probably core objectives. But, obviously pre-pandemic, and then it's a little bit different now. But nonetheless, that's exactly it. And you know what we found in our tests at St. Luke's was that we would come back and somebody would have changed the channel. What's the worst thing you think you could put on in a hospital in the middle of the day? Yes, you guessed it, General Hospital.
Yeah.
I won't say that they were, but let's say some of the people working there, they would turn it on and we'd ask with him. They said, well, our guests wanted to have this on. It's like, oh, really? They wanted to have on a show where they're, well, Joe, you've got triple blah blah blah, and you need to have surgery immediately, or you're going to, you're going to fall over right now, and you're getting ready to go and have your blood pressure tested, and going, "Whoa, Joe, we're ready for you now."
Exactly.
So relieving
exactly.
anxiety, reducing stress,
Mm.
we do that. So we have original fingerstyle guitar music in the background. We have a voiceover. So if you're hearing impaired, sight impaired, we have large white type on the screen. It's trying to be as inclusive as possible. And that comes from some of my background working with an organization called Outreach Milwaukee here back in 1986. When I
Get
was a
used to
punk ass
that.
kid starting an agency and donating my time to help them market. And I learned about art therapy and it's stuck with me ever since. So we're trying to do it. We're trying. I pivoted.
Bravo.
So I mean, I'm trying. I still do a little. I do design work and website development, all that stuff. But it's Peter pays Paul, right? So it helps keep me doing this. I design things like ties and stuff like that. But it's all to feed the Fotavia bulldog. We have to get this out there. So I'm very excited. We're over 300 pieces of content now and growing. So my team we're doing a nice job.
Wow. Hey, Ellen, I'll give you a chance to unmute and join in next. And when I think about how a tugboat nudges a giant barge and just enough nudges, and as that barge continues, it's it was headed north and now it's heading south by southeast with just tiny changes, and that's what I think of. But I don't know, it's been a number of months, what you might be up to in it just for 2023.
Absolutely. If people are not sure what Christine is referring to, I work on behavior change for health span. All the advances have given us another third of life, but we need to expand that healthy middle out as long as possible. And so I have kind of a long professional life, decades of doing communications in behavior change. I was a content writer and creator in mostly in healthcare, but in all different media channels. I did physician education, patient education, psychologist. What I came to realize is that we're surrounded by information that tells us the what and why of behaviors for our health and well-being. People don't tell us how. It's sort of like, here's a prescription, in the old days it was brochures. I guess that's, we mostly came up with that. Now it's kind of like, here, PDFs on a website, go figure it out. How do you take action? And so I'm certified in the Tiny Habits method. I've practiced it myself for 10 years, and I was so inspired after 7 years. I got certified about 3 years ago. And it's just this idea of, when we try to make positive changes in our lives and we don't succeed, we tend to blame ourselves, but we're not at fault. It's our approach to change. It's too big, it's too vague, it's too complex with many steps in it. And so what we're really looking for, I think, particularly as we grow older, is success. And it just seems to me that this was perfect. So, I guess in the last 6 months, well, you can see my hair. It looks a little different. At the end of 2021, I decided, sorry, that I have the luxury doing the work that I'm doing, that I don't have to color my hair anymore. And I know this, certainly I think the most high profile story about this is Lisa LaFlamme, the Canadian broadcaster. And there's still a debate over whether it was letting her hair go gray that got her let go from her television gig of many decades. But I feel that it's a privilege. I know women should be able to do what they want. If women want to keep their hair any color at all, they should be able to do it. But somehow there's a feeling that men look distinguished. The whole idea of powdered wigs back in the Renaissance era was that it gave you gravitas because you looked older, right? And this is what a gerontologist explained on some webinar I was on, but it's not for women. And so I didn't know what it would look like, but I'm very happy. So that's changed. My mother turned 90, and she is, her legacy is my motivation. She got a PhD in gerontology in the 1970s, and she joined the faculty of a medical college. But after several years, they disbanded the department because medical students didn't want to study geriatrics. It doesn't pay well. There's no heroic cures for old age. I mean, and so she went on to a successful career pivot, but I watched her walk the talk into this vibrant old age. And I feel like there was so much she was working on that just we need it now. We're living so much longer, yet our mindsets are all back in the 1970s. So I'm combining tiny habits with sort of the kind of behavior change communications that I do. And I did last year for my 65th birthday, which I talked about this last time because this was in the early part of the year. I took myself to the Modern Elder Academy, which calls itself the world's first midlife wisdom school. But they're very much concerned. One of the things that, I mean, they do all kinds of things, but one of the things they're very concerned with is how we navigate life transitions. And so they actually call it TQ, transition intelligence. And again, it's great theory. I think something like habit and behavior design is exactly what we need. So I work with that. During the pandemic, I got a certificate in UX writing. This is a kind of, even though I've done all kinds of content writing and creation, this is writing the micro copy. So I work with wellness entrepreneurs. I know Mark, who, and this is just kind of on the communication, sort of the communicating the messages that need to be given to people. How do you break things down so they're actionable? How do we find success? Because that's the other thing. We live in what the founder of Tiny Habits, BJ Fogg, who's a Stanford researcher, he calls it, we live in a go big or go home world. And so we're always doing things that we should feel successful about. And we're always telling ourselves, oh, that was nothing. So how do we break it down? And one of the things I've done this year, I was tapped, the Modern Elder Academy has alumni associations. And so I was asked to be a co-lead for this year. So I've been doing that. And that's really fascinating to have monthly meetings and online meetings and just be conversing with people, and I'm looking to put together kind of what are the best practices of modern elders. What are we doing to keep our health, our well-being, our happiness, our positivity in the face of all kinds of, whatever we're facing in life? Because, I mean, change comes to us. There's loss, there are diagnoses, there's living with chronic illness, all kinds of things we're asked to step up. People, either they're downsized from their career or they've retired and they're looking for their identity. There's so much we need to do, and there's so many ways to take action. So feel blessed to be in 2023 with my family healthy and just excited. And I'll just close with my favorite quote at this stage in life, which is from a 20th century Polish poet who says, "Youth is the gift of nature, but age is a work of art."
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
I know this isn't the only thing that's on everyone's mind, but gerontology department disbanded because it's not glamorous. It doesn't bring in the bucks. That I wonder if that's going to change as
No, that's not the first time.
everyone. Yeah, it's not the first time, are people going to go, wait a minute, this is an industry. This isn't just something that people kind of talk about on the side. This is a force with people not only growing this direction as far as number of years that they could be alive, but also growing this direction as the number of people are whatever, 55 plus, whatever they call a breaking point, 65, whatever it is. But wow. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad I get to watch this again and replay, because I'm not making any notes like I planned to. And I will have to do that then.
Just one more thing to add. If hopefully people here know the name Louise Aronson, but if you've seen her manifesto Elderhood, she's a geriatrician, and it's really, I mean, she says the health metrics that we are all subjected to, the gold standard in the United States at least, is a 30-year-old white male, which excludes almost everybody on the planet. I mean, that's just incredible that is the metric for health, and then everybody else is somehow in a deficit. That's the other thing I'm doing with behavior design and habit design, is that all we do when we talk about aging is talk about deficits. Where are the competencies? With that, I'll stop.
Victoria Lubriel McCullough has been so faithful to show up for these and make comments live. There are people who have shown up faithfully, but they don't make comments every single time. And I finally said, Victoria, do you want to come in on one of these? And so she is in a couple of weeks. And I started when I saw you come on the screen, Tim, I started by letting people know that you hopped onto a voyage we didn't sink. It was my maiden voyage of inviting people to just come and talk about aging. I remember a friend being on the screen, someone that I've been with face to face, saying, yes, sure, I'll come in, although that is not an area of expertise. It's not a thing that they do as part of their job or their hobbies or their career. But it was Miriam who started me kind of thinking, this is worth talking about, because I said, someone patting you on the hand and saying, it's okay. You don't need to have this complicated technical, this new tech figured out. We'll work on it for you. And she said, oh, I would hate that. And I didn't know at the time that she really is completely a tech savvy tech expert, and how that would feel to get to a point in life where someone says, things are just different now. So you just, we'll take care of that part. You keep kind of doing what you're, the condescending of wanting and the desire to not only stay relevant, but to not be disregarded because of your outward appearance or your birth date or what have you. So, Tim, thank you so much for starting me off, because I haven't missed a Wednesday yet. I just really look forward to these gatherings. And Tim, you told us that there's a machine next to you. What do you want to talk about, Tim?
Well, first I was going to say, I will accept your thanks, but I can encourage as many people as they want to do something. It takes you to make the action happen, because I cannot take the footsteps for you. I can only hold your hand as you take your own footsteps. So, because we're each on our own path. But that being said, really what I'm kind of focused on now outside of my day job, which is leading community strategy and content for our company, where we deal in the entertainment industry with musicians, film, TV, and gaming. I am a stage 4 colon cancer survivor, currently under chemo. That's the machine that I have on me. And I have been for about the last year looking for a liver transplant, because the cancer metastasized to my liver. I had a colonoscopy about a year ago. Everything was taken out of my colon. The biopsy showed that there was no cancer remaining in my colon, so it's all confined to my liver now. There's only about 50 patients that in the US that have received a liver transplant with metastasized colorectal cancer. So I'm in a very small group of people that is even pursuing this route. There's only about 15 centers in the US that have performed this. And last year, as I was going through this, I started realizing that unlike people that have liver disease, where you get on a list and the higher your score is, the higher you qualify to get a donor, with most metastasized colorectal cancer patients, your liver is healthy outside of the cancer in it. So you don't score high enough on those lists to get a deceased donor. Most, not all. And each center that does these procedures actually has the patient do their own search for their own donor. There are other routes and other groups that are out there, but by and large, 95% of the efforts come from the person needing the liver to go out and find their own donor. And what I saw was every person I know that has successfully had this procedure done had at least 5 to 7 donors that wanted to donate that weren't a right match for them. And I'm like, where are these people going? Because I'm up next looking for a donor. I know there's going to be other people beside me and behind me that are coming up looking for these donors. And nobody's trying to collect this information and bring these people together where we can have a pool of willing donors along with metastasized cancer patients that are searching for donors. And I'm the type of person, if I see something wrong, I just don't point a finger and say, why doesn't somebody do something about this? I have a quote, I don't have it in front of me and I'm going to butcher it, but it's a Lily Tomlin quote that I think almost all of us have probably heard. I always wondered why somebody never did anything about it. And then I realized I was somebody. And that's me now. I live my life that way. If I wonder why something's not being done, I don't say who should be doing it. I just say, let's do it. And so I started a site called Share My Liver. I was, undergoing treatment at the time, so I wasn't feeling that great. So my mind works fine. Got a little brain fog from the chemo, but outside of that, it works great. I'm overall healthy, but I am very fatigued during my chemo. And so one of the things I did was I just asked a friend who was really good with like copy and design. And I had another friend who was like a no-code, low-code engineer. And I just had conversations with both of them, said, would you guys be willing to help me with this site? We had 0 meetings altogether. Still to this date, we have not had a meeting. We haven't formalized any kind of corporation or organization with this. It's just a site. But currently we have 13 people that have signed up to be donors on there. And now we're starting to collect recipients that are looking for donors so we can get their stories up there. I really thought when I started on this that it was really about just providing the recipient the knowledge, the tools, and the resources to be able to connect with and find their own donors, at the same time building up our donor base that we could help fill that pipeline for recipients coming in. Last 2 weeks ago, I got word from my medical team that my insurance company actually denied my procedure because it's considered experimental. I exhausted all my internal appeals with the insurance company and external appeals. And I won't go into a whole nother tangent about the insurance, but I will say that this is now something that I have become more knowledgeable about, the insurance side of it, just like I've become more knowledgeable about living donor liver transplants that I never thought I would be. And so this is another resource that we're going to put in there about helping and advising recipients on, how to actually navigate through the insurance process. Because it matters if you have an Affordable Care Act, because that's run by the federal government, where if you're in a state program, those are all run by state laws. And so you have different options available if it's a federal program versus a state program. And I'm not saying I'm the expert in this. I'm like this knowledgeable, but I'm probably more knowledgeable than about 90% of the population when it comes to this issue, especially because it's considered an experimental procedure. So that being said, that's kind of what I do now in my passion. And I guess, a few people have called this like their legacy project, but my goal is not to become famous for this. It's not to become rich from it. It's just to be there for other people and to have this continue on and continue to grow. Hopefully it won't get to a point where we need to do this, because obviously colorectal cancer can be easily treated if it's detected early enough. And if we get more funding in there, we can stop all this. But in the interim period, I want this to become, for the people that do have colorectal cancer that metastasize to their liver, and a viable treatment option for the right candidates to be able to get these procedures done, find their donors, and not have to deal with all the insurance bullshit.
So all important things to everyone who loves you and loves a person who is going, they're just like, what can we learn? What can we do? Where can we go? Does anybody do anything about this? How can I help? Do you have anyone who has been a living liver donor who would be willing to speak in a situation where they would be able to say, this is how I came to that decision. This is why. And, this is what, my recovery is. It's supposed to be 6 to 12 weeks, but, I was, super whatever, diligent. And so, I was able to resume normal everything at 5 weeks, or, that sort of
Oh,
a
yeah.
thing. Do you have any,
Yeah,
what are
no,
those
I am connected.
testimonials?
I am connected with about 30% of the recipients and probably about 25% of the donors that have had these procedures done. So, I mean, I don't know everybody, but I know a good percentage of them. I actually just had somebody come to me say, I have a friend who's interested in possibly being a living donor. Do you have a donor, just like you asked, that would be willing to talk with her and give her the insights of what she's doing? So we do have some that have been mass produced by other sources that we have on our site, but we're collecting more. And we're going to have some sessions where we have Q&As. And I mean, this is all like evolving as I go, but this is all like part of the plan. But one of the things that's really big is helping people. And we try and do that on the site in text and through some stories, what the process is like to be a living donor. I mean, just the screening process alone that you need to go through. First, it starts with several phone screenings, then blood test, then a CT scan. You might have to have a colonoscopy. You might have to have an ultrasound when you get your CT scan done of your liver. Then they have more phone calls with you. Then you meet with the team that's going to be doing the procedure. Every step along the way, they are telling you what's involved, what the risks are, how long you're going to be out, making sure that you want to do this. And you as a donor have until they put you under anesthesia when you're in the hospital for the procedure to back out of it at any time. And they make that abundantly clear to you. And they make that abundantly clear to me as a recipient that I can be in the hospital, all prep for the OR. And if that person before they go under anesthesia says no, it's off. So you're never done with this until the transplant's actually done. Kind of like when they say when you made a sale, it's not not a done deal until the money's in the bank, right? And it's kind of not a done deal with the transplant until you actually have the transplant procedure done.
Similar to adoption, we are parents because of 3 adoptions. Similar to that, the decision can be reversed at any point. There's counseling that we received. A lot of people have been through this, and I'm sorry if I'm bringing up something that's going to trigger someone else who has gone through that emotional this and then over to that. Would that the person who's donating, would they know who they're donating to? Would the person who is the recipient, would they know who that person is? Is that all kept very private? Is that always
it's very private, unless if the potential donor notifies the recipient of what's going on and that they've called, they've gone through this test, they've gone through that test. You might go through an entire donation process. I don't know anybody that's had this happen, but it is possible, and they make you very well aware of this. I might have a donor who wants to remain anonymous. I might get to the hospital. I might go through the transplant procedure. And if they still don't want to come to me after the surgery's over and just recover on their own and leave, I might never know who that person is. But I've never known anybody that has done that.
So you're saying they usually would like to meet each other?
A lot of them don't let you know until they've been approved and you have a surgery date. But most people know going into it who it's going to be. A lot, I'd say about half know before and half become aware of it after both the recipient and the donor have been approved match for each other. And then the donor actually tells the recipient, hey, I'm your donor. It's a very emotional roller coaster. Right. I've been looking for a donor for over a year, and I've known people that have gone through this that have just been in constant communication with me and then no communication and don't follow up with any response to me. I've had people that have had all their tests, that everything looked good. We thought we were getting really close to having picking a date to get the transplant done. And then something changed. I've had people that have gone through the whole screening process, had a change of mind that they just in their gut didn't feel it was the right thing to do for them at that moment, and backed out. So I've been at all the highs and all the lows multiple times over this past year. And it is not easy. The insurance thing was another hurdle that I needed to come over. And I'm sure just the whole thing of once we get a donor, once we get the insurance approval, once we get the date and I'm up there, it could be another thing. I just heard of another patient who was getting a transplant, and they actually opened him up for the transplant and found that the cancer had spread that didn't show on one of the scans outside of his liver. And when that happens, you're not a candidate for the liver transplant at that moment in time. So they closed him back up. And thankfully, it was right before they cut into the donor's liver. So she just had a scar from where they cut open to do that. And he has a scar where they cut open to do it, but neither of them had anything other than that done. But that's how close you can get to actually still not getting the transplant. So until it's done, it's not done.
No,
But the roller coaster is not over for me yet.
You said back in August, you said, I don't really think about it as aging. I think about this as living. How am I aging? This is living day to day. So I call this aspects of aging, but I need to rename it to aspects of living. And this is an aspect of living. It's a relationship. It's a feeling. It's risks. It's thinking, you know what? I'm good with this. I'm good with this. I'm okay. I'm not good with this. There's just, oh my goodness. There's so much. There's so much. Oh my goodness. Mark Joseph is Gramps Jeffries, and I keep forgetting his real name. And he has a book nearby, and he has an entire life that he's been living. So I'm thinking he is a grandpa because he goes by Gramp Jeffries. Is that your middle name?
My name, Gramps Jeffries, on my book. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, it's I don't want room 3. It's a true story about my 6 grandkids.
6.
Yeah. So I picked the pen name Gramps Jeffrey because my middle name is Jeffrey. I spell it Jeffrey. But for years, my wife always spelled it wrong the other way, Jeffrey. So I figured if I put it on a book, she'll finally learn how to spell my name. And it worked. She now spells it correctly. And my grandkids call me Gramps, so that's how I became Gramps Jeffrey for the name of the book. But I don't know if I really want to follow Tim. That was all.
I know. I just.
You may want to keep me to last. Why don't you? Because you only have 18 minutes left, 17 minutes left. Why don't you pick up the other guests and I'll come on last?
Okie doke. I feel that what you are doing is also important. What you're gathering together is also important, because here I wanted to talk about aging and I met Tim, and what you want to do can veer off in another direction that has significance that cannot be scripted, can't be.
All right, I'll keep going.
Come up. Yeah, you go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
if you can.
We talk about how the first couple of speakers talking about pivoting, how you do it in your life as we grow older and we become baby boomers and so forth. My early career, I was in corporate America. Then I became an entrepreneur, and I've opened 3 different businesses when I took public. But my first book was called "The Secrets of Retailing: How to Beat Walmart," and that that I came into. And then finally, when COVID hit, I wrote my book because I had all my 6 grandkids at one time. I had a chance to really observe them. And that's how I Don't Want to Turn 3 came about. And it's about, basically at what age do we begin to take responsibility? Is it 3 years old? Is it 13? Is it 23? I know plenty of 63 years old that still don't take responsibility. But that's what that's all about. But what that led me to, because, my main theme as I was talking on podcasts and so forth, were that the baby boomer generation, the grandparents of the day, need to get more involved in raising this greatest generation we have, which is the kids of 1 to 10 years old today. Unfortunately for us as baby boomers, 30% of us are not involved in our grandkids' lives, and there's all kinds of reasons for that. But we figure out, we have raised our kids, they'll raise their grandkids. I'm going to go play pickleball. So that's 30% of us, and that's kind of what led me with my 3 partners to open up the site called babyboomer.org. And it's a site that we launched, just starting back in September. And the reason we launched the site is our generation is as diverse as every other generation before us and after us, if not more, both politically and religiously and thoughts. And I mean, we're such a diverse generation. But the one thing the baby boomers have in common is a shared experience. Right? We as a baby boomer generation, if you remember, we're growing up, there were 3 television stations. We all had landlines. So we all got the same kind of information. So there's plenty of shared experiences that we have. We were there for the Kennedy assassinations, and Martin Luther King, and we were there when we landed on the moon. That was our generation. The birth control became widespread during our generation. Vietnam happened. And Kent State, that all happened. But we all have music. With Elvis, the Beach Boys, the Beatles, Three Dog Nights, the Supremes. We can all relate to that. That's our generation. We have movies we can relate to. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Jaws, probably all the Spielberg movies, Animal House, Star Wars, The Godfather. So we have all these shared experiences. And what we wanted to do when we created babyboomer.org is bring it together so it's a one place where you can stop and shop and look around and be together with other baby boomers. I mean, so we're concentrating on making sure we have topics that we all can relate to: fitness, health, dating, bucket lists. We want to make sure that we're involved in all the sports we like: pickleball, financing, retirement, travel, and all the things we're up against, dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So it's a one-stop shop where we've got all this information. And so far, we've been able to gather close to 200 podcasters who are talking about things that affect our generation, or are podcasters who are part of our generation. We've gathered over 400 experts and contributors who talk about things about our generation. So I'm looking at everybody here on our screen, and you all should be on our site. So when you're done, come to babyboomer.org. Christine, I can't believe we don't have your podcast on our site yet. We got to get that up on our site, because it is a place for our generation to communicate back and forth. And that's why we brought this together, and that's why we've created the babyboomer.org. We are a unique generation. So I urge anyone listening, or anyone, come to the site and contribute and share your information. I mean, all the stories we heard today will be great on the site to share with other people besides, the 10 or 12 or 20 or 30 or 50 of us for listening here. So I encourage you, there's a part on the site at the top that says content contribute. Just punch that button, follow through, add your articles, add your blogs, add your podcasts, because it's a one place where we can all communicate. And so I don't know if that's a pitch today, or I just want to get our generation more involved and sticking together, because we are so pulled apart with everything going on in this world. We got to have some place where we can all just talk and be together.
When I post this out, make sure that you come in. I'll tag y'all, and make sure you come in and put what you want people to remember into those comments below, so that because baby boomers, or there's boomer babies or something, there's another one that I went to first. I'm like, no, this isn't the right one. So you guys will put it in correctly, because I never made it as a secretary. That's my sister and my mom, but they know that I'm just post-it notes that fall to the floor, and I think, oh, maybe I should contact that person. You know, I'm just all over the place. Who was it? Who was it? Atel, was it you that said you are a conduit in one of these shows? You know, it was like, you are a conduit. And I'm like, yes, yes, let me just be the highway or the connector or whatever it is that, you know, brings out and brings up all these topics of importance, because I say that the one thing that affects everything as you age or as you continue to live is how you feel. You don't feel trust in that doctor, so you either don't take the pills that they told you to take, or you look for a second opinion. I don't feel like talking to you, you know, you people who love me, about my personal thoughts about my years to come. So I don't. And then something changes and it's like, oh my goodness, I really feel this is important. I want you all to listen to me. I hope you're ready for this, because I want to tell you how I want to continue to live. If I'm having difficulties, I'd rather this, I'd rather not that, how you feel. So, oh goodness, I'm jabbering. Atel, I remember that you signed us off at one on the one that you were on before, because this is a reunion. It was I had a lot of feelings by the end of that particular thing, so I kind of let you signed us off the show. But you're not signing off, because we've got one more mark to hear how things have been going. Atel, what's happening? How's your world?
Oh, well, I'll just introduce myself. I'm the founding president of the International Caregivers Association. And that came about through life experience, like everybody on this program, and I think everybody in the world. My husband was diagnosed with vascular dementia, and for 21 years I took care of him, and successfully so. And he was my teacher. He was, I followed everything that he did. I wrote books about it, his experience. It was fascinating. So I'm grateful to him, first of all. Then now I'm working on the Caregiver Partnership Agreement Program, which I am the creator of. I've experienced it, I've tested it, and it works. And it's designed really to help mostly the person living with dementia and their families, and also those institutions that we use for care later on in life, because private care can only last a certain time before you either get sick or you die from it. So it was important for me to help people to live through that experience, because it could be up to 40 years and more. So I'm just launching that caregiver partnership program now. I don't want to take too much time from it and from this program, but I'm here to tell you that I have a secret to happiness. So everybody, please pay attention, because I think this is what gets us in trouble. We're searching for happiness all of our life, but I found the secret to the happiness. And it is simply to have no expectations.
Bingo. Yes.
You got it, Christine.
Yes. Yes. That has come up in so many different arenas.
That's how we get unhappy. That's how we get unhappy. That's how we get sick.
Yes. You build something up that cannot be achieved, or at least cannot be maintained.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness sakes. You make me want to go watch Great Expectations.
Mm.
The woman in the room. And it did not occur. The expectation was not met. And her life went. I just gave it away if anyone's never watched it.
I found that especially in dementia care, that people have such expectations. And to have no expectation really save your life, and saves the life of the person with dementia.
Thank you, Atel. Hey, Mark. If I didn't talk at all, this show would have been done a long time ago. But um, Mark, when I think of you, I think of ducking and jumping over and then shushing and swooshing. I've got that right? Right?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Good, 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 good.
That's a great vision. When you please continue, think of my name and think of the whooshing, the ducking, the whizzing, the booming, the
Mhm.
banging. Yeah. So first of all, it's been awesome listening to everyone's stories and a lot of inspiring things to hear, and it's really cool to see all the awesome things people are doing for the world. So I'm Mark, for those of you who don't know me. Just a little update. Actually, I'll just a little background on myself, where I've founded a company. It's been actually 10 years that we're in going at it. Company's called Gentronics. It's a motion sensing rehabilitation. So it's basically taking the insights around gamification and turning exercise into something fun, interesting, motivating, exciting for people. There is a wide body of clinical evidence that shows that when someone is emotionally engaged in what they're doing, whether it be exercise or work or something, an intellectual pursuit, they perform much better result when it comes to exercise and rehabilitation outcomes. They go in more intensely, they take on a bigger challenge, show up more often, and they end up getting a better outcome. And one of the higher level insights that really I take with me in all my work that I do is getting reaching a level of what you want in terms on an exercise basis. It's not just something for the body, it's also something that really depends on the mind. And when you're a lot of the medical establishment, the way that it's been built is really built in a way that treats the body as a machine that's there to be retooled in one way or another. And oftentimes what's going on in the person's mind is something that's sort of something that drags along. And what a lot of the latest insights in this area has shown is that what happens in your mind really makes a profound difference. And it's hard to, these are philosophical questions about, how the mind affects some of the deeper levels of the body. But when it comes to exercise, it's actually a little bit more straightforward. So we're a company that really leveraged the latest motion sensing elements that existed. So we built a rehabilitation program that's used in about 300 rehabilitation facilities. It includes a whole suite of different games for upper body rehab, lower body rehab, sitting, standing, neurological, musculoskeletal, and we keep adding to it. And we're excited about that program. And then over the last couple of years, since COVID actually began, we started building a new program that's now called LudoFit, and basically takes the insights from the Gentronics flagship program that's in rehabilitation facilities and skilled nursing facilities, and we wanted to take that concept and bring it to people where they are, where they want to continue to be, which is at home. And so as we were developing our programs, the technology evolved to a way that we can basically create motion sensing, gamified exercises for strength and balance, for healthy aging, that can be installed on any computer or laptop, iPad. It's been quite a journey building a brand new program with our team over the last few years. And then what's happened recently, I should say, actually, I worked with Ellen for a few months to develop things. So actually, I don't know, I met you, I think, at a clubhouse, and we started talking about it makes sense. Tiny habits, encouragement, what's that about, and connecting to the elements that we're doing. So it was really a good fit. And and a lot of Ellen's insights have flowed into our content, to our messaging, to our elements there. So I was really grateful for that. And Ellen's just the beginning, so lots more to come with us, and excited about that. And over the last little bit, so we've been piloting this program for the last year or so, and we've been getting pretty good feedback from people. One of the biggest pieces of feedback that people have said is, like, we had 3 games in there, and they said, well, we love the program, but you need more variety. So the games are all based on the theme of world travel. Oh, I see it's 1 o'clock already. So all that's to say is last few months, we've been building more games. We actually hired some more talent, development talent, and 3D art talent to make our games look great. We've launched it to anyone. Anyone can go to our website. It's free. If you take it right now, it's free for 3 months. So anyone who jumps on and tries it out, who wants to, go for it, enjoy, and that's all I have to say.
I'm so grateful that it is so streamlined that someone can just put it in front of them and go. I know that Mark Joseph, if he was getting over, some sort of surgery or something, that he and his 6 grandkids could all be doing this together. And for them, it would just be like, this is fun. And that would transport him out of the, oh, I have to do these exercises like 60 times, 4 times a day, and transport him into, the kids going, let's do that thing again, Grandma. And it's like, okay. And off a person goes to a different region. Thank you for all the thought that you're putting into it. Everything from what Ellen is certified in, to just making the graphics even more engaging or lively, or just putting that value in front of someone going, this is great. I might just keep doing this because I can feel it, in my quads or something. And this is so good. I just have been neglecting parts of me, and this keeps me going. I really appreciate what you've developed over the last 10 years. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
And thank you to my husband, who is my producer every single week. He's the motivational listener, D. Scott Smith, for bringing you all into this moment. And I'm always honored, but today I'm like, this is fun. I'm glad I get to see some people again next week. So next Wednesday, the 1st of March, there will be some other people who were on in 2020, 2022. Boy, 2020 is on the brain. 2022, and they will be coming back in to do the same thing, to just let everyone know, since last we spoke, what they've achieved, what hurdles they are bashing through, what barriers they're breaking, and what words of wisdom they have, and resources. You don't have to live alone, care for someone alone, look at your hair turning gray alone, whatever it is. There's so many other people who are going, I've been through the same thing. Oh, and this is what I've done about it. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine, for your sensitivity.
Absolutely.
You understand everything. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.